Okay, good morning and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube. Iyun Benzion. Today's daf is Nazir daf Chav Daled, number 24. The Mishnah on Chav Daled and Aleph discusses a case, a woman who takes a Nazirus, the husband, and she sets aside either money or animals for karbanos for the completion of Nazirus. And then before she had the ability to complete the 30 days of Nazirus, her husband was made for a Nazirus. You have to be made for it during that day. So she set it aside during that day, the first day, and then he was made for it. Technically, he even if he heard it 15 days later, he has 24 hours to be made for it. Whenever he hears it, he has 24 hours. He's made for the Nazirus, even though she set aside either money or animals for the completion of a Nazirus. She has makdish them. So what do you do with the animals? So the end of the Mishnah says when you have money, she says set aside money. So if she set aside money for a chatas, so the chatas, right? If she set aside actually an animal for a chatas, the chatas actually ends up dying, right? It dies because it's like a chatas shemesu bala. If someone sets aside a korban chatas and he dies, the halacha is you let the animal die because there's no chatas is for kapara for sinning, right? It's atonement for sinning. You only need to atone for it after you died. The shlamim, though, if you set aside money for a shlamim, or you set aside an animal for a shlamim, the shlamim has kedusha, and seemingly has kedusha of a nazir. Therefore, it's only eaten for 1 day and 1 night. A regular shlamim, any other shlamim, is eaten for 2 days and 1 night. This is only eaten for 1 day and 1 night. You don't bring the lechem. You know, normally the shlamim of a nazir is accompanied by 40 loaves of bread. You don't bring it up here because there's no completion. It's waved together with the animal at the completion of the Naziris. There's no completion of the Naziris because he is made for the Naziris. The Naziris doesn't come to completion. And an Ola also is brought as a korban Ola. And in his Me'ilah, there's Me'ilah, it says, whether it's money or an animal, there's Me'ilah because it's Kachem Kachem. Shlam is Kachem Kal, is no Me'ilah. But all is Kachem Kachem is Kachem Ola. And there's Me'ilah because seemingly it has the Kedusha of the Naziris. Now, the problem with this Mishnah is that why should the Ola have Kedusha? And why should the Shlam have Kedusha? The fact that the shlamim is also only brought for 1 day and 1 night, and the ola is me'ilah, so there is something going on kedusha. Even though he was made for the nazirus, it's not completely abrogated in the nazirus. The Gemara on Chav Daled and Beis brings 3 other cases which are the same exact halachas, and then it brings a 5th case. And the Gemara asks why the Gemara grouped 4 cases together, not this 5th case. What's the 5th case? The 5th case is where the nazirus was completed, 30-day nazirus, but when they shechted the korban shlamim, at the end, the person who shechted it had in mind that he's shechting it for an ola. So the first Mishnah, Mesechus Zvachim, says that all karbanos, if you shech them shalakum and tzvasan, you shech them with the wrong intention, they're a good karban. You can makir on the mizbeach. However, it's not all the ba'al and shem chova. It doesn't work to release you from yechah. You have to bring another karban as a karban shlamim for the shlamim and the ziras. Right. So what do you do with this animal? You're makir on the mizbeach, right? Who eats the meat? Right. It's a karban shlamim. So the end of Chav Daled and Beis, 3 lines from the bottom. It's eaten liyom echad. So it has kedusha of a nazir, a korban nazir. It's only eaten for 1 day and 1 night, but it doesn't need lo lechem lo zroa. You don't bring lechem because you're not waving. You have to wave the bread with the shlamim. This is the shlamim that's not going to be used. You have to bring another shlamim with lechem, lo zroa, and as opposed to all the other cases, 4 cases where it does not say mention anything about the zroa. Here it says v'lo zroa. There's no zroa over here. Now, this was the question that the Rishonim deal with, right? In all these cases, let's say the case of our Mishnah, where the husband is made for the Nazirus, there's no completion of the Nazirus. There is some sort of Nazirus going on because the Ola has Kedusha and the Shlamim has Kedusha, only brought for 1 day and 1 night. What do you do about the zroa? Now, normally a korban shlamim, any other korban shlamim besides the shlamim of a Nazir, the only part you give to the Kohen is the chazeh, which is the ribs, and the shok. The shok is the hind leg, the right hind leg. Right, there's 4 legs in the animal. The right back leg you give to the Kohen, but the right foreleg is eaten by Yisrael. However, by a shlamim, which is a ram, by a Nazir, also the zroa, also the foreleg is given to the Kohen also. An extra leg is given to the Kohen. So what's the halacha over here? Right, it has some parts of a korban shlamim of a nazir and some parts not. There's no lechem, but it is eaten for 1 day and 1 night. So what about the zroa? So only in this last case there's v'lo zroa. It means there's no zroa. So what does this mean v'lo zroa? So if you look at Art Scroll 24b, note 27, they say, right, Lo Zroa does not mean it's completely like Nazroa. It's just not cooked together, and it's not waved. However, it is given to a Kohen. Tosfos, the Rush, citing the Re. Tosfos in the Rush quote the Re. The Re's opinion was a Bali Tosfos. He held that it still has Kedushas Nazir. It's given to the Kohen. The Rambam argues. And says no, there's no Kedusha at all. And this machlokes was cited earlier in Art Scroll when they were talking in the Mishnah. The Mishnah didn't say anything about this Roa. So it's conspicuous a little bit that it only says in this last case, the fifth case, it says Lo Zroa, and the first four cases it doesn't say it, which implies that what? There is a concept of Zroa over there. And the Zroa would presumably, right, there's a difference of halacha. So I would venture to say, that in the last case, where there's a completion of the Nazirus, right, the fifth case, the completion of the Nazirus, you just shafted it for the wrong intention over there. Lo Zroa means there's no, it's korban, right? Oh, little Ba'al M'Shem Chova. It's not connected to Nazirus in any way. It's not connected to your Nazirus. So therefore, Lo Zroa, I think it's like the Rambam. It can be eaten by Yisrael. It's not, this korban shlamim is not, you have to bring another korban shlamim in Nazirus. It has nothing to do with your Nazirus. The other four cases, like for our Mishnah, let's take an example of our Mishnah, right? Hafara, the Baal was made for the Nazirus. And the Gemara compared it like that it's like someone who separated korban chatas and he died. But it's not exactly like that, because we've said that Hafaras Nadarim or Hafaras Nazirus is basically a blocking of the Nazirus, B'shas Hamiro, it's Miklash Kolish, like the Gemara suggested many times. Miklash Kolish or Ma'akar Akar. It doesn't completely remove it, it just removes the words, it weakens the words. Now, it weakens the words, the fact that it's not a neder, a Nazirus, it's not a Shvua, but there is a concept, it's not completely weakened, it's like, there's a concept of a Shvua that if I have Kavan in my mind and I'm noheg that Nazirus, so it's still effective. So that type of Shvua is still in place, even if you're Hafara. It's not completely like a person, Chadash Be'ezubal, I didn't die. It's just, Hafara is not Hataras in the Dharma, we explain many times. So therefore, that aspect still, that there's still a concept in the Nazirus over there. That's why the Korban Ola is still has Kedusha and Ola. There's the Me'ilah. And the Korban Shlamim is really a Shlamim of a Nazir you bring. You don't bring it at the end, but I mean, you don't wait 30 days, but you bring it as a Korban Shlamim. It has Kedusha of a Nazir a little bit, partially through the Machshava, right? There's a concept of an Isra Gavra by a Nazir. Two types of Nazir, so we explain. The Isra Chefsa, the full Nazir, and the Isra Gavra. And something, even though the Isra Gavra usually is through the mouth, through the Shvua, if that's blocked through the Hafara, there is a concept through Machshava, right? Through having in mind to be knowing something in the Naziris, and then going through it, acting partial of the Naziris before the Hafara. So therefore, there was something that happened over here. So therefore, there is Korban Shalom. It's only eaten for one day and one night. And I would say that the Zroa has Kedusha's Zroa, just like a Korban Nazir. It has Kedusha's Nazir. And the Zroa could only be eaten, the right foreleg is only eaten by the Kohen. In that case, in that case, right? In that case, so I would agree with the Re that is given to the Kohen. However, I think the Rambam's right in the last case where a person completes his Naziris, but he shechs the animal, the Shlomim, l'shem Ola, so it's not good even, it's not related at all to the Korban Nazir. You have to bring a completely new animal. So in that case, it specifically says V'lo Zero, even though all the other cases, there's 4 cases that are similar, one in our Mishnah, and 3 cases similar to that, the Gemara Chavdal and Beis enumerates them. They're similar. It doesn't mention anything about the Zroa, because the Zroa, it has partial Naziris over there, right? Because the Naziris except it was abrogated in the middle. It wasn't completely batel. It wasn't nullified completely. It was abrogated. All these cases, it was abrogated. So in that case, part of the Naziris remains. The Shlomim is really a Shlomim of Naziris, and therefore the Zroa goes to the Kohen. However, in the last case, where the Shlomim is nothing at all connected to the Nazir, you have to bring a completely new Shlomim. So therefore, in that case, it specifically says the Brisa of Lo Zroa. And in that case, I believe, like the Rambam, that has no Kedusha, Kedusha by Yisrael. However, in the other 4 cases, it has complete Kedusha, it has to be given to a Kohen, like the Re. So the Re is right in some cases, the Rambam is right in the last case. That's how I'd like to learn. I hope you enjoyed today's share. See you with the next one.